Winston Davis was once a feared fast bowler who terrorized batsmen across cricket grounds worldwide, his thunderous deliveries earning him respect and fame as part of the legendary West Indies cricket machine. But today, this cricket hero sits paralyzed from the neck down, forgotten by many, struggling to survive on charity and benefit matches that barely keep him afloat. From cricket legend to complete dependency, one tragic moment changed everything. The story of Winston Davis reads, like a cruel twist of fate that no scriptwriter would dare pen. Here was a man who once commanded stadiums, whose very presence on the cricket field sent shivers down the spine of the world's best batsmen. His fast bowling was poetry in motion, a deadly combination of pace, precision, and power that made him a cornerstone of West Indies cricket during their golden era. He bowled alongside the greatest names in cricket history, shared dressing rooms with legends, and lived the dream that millions of young cricketers around the world could only fantasize about. Winston's cricket career was everything you'd expect. From a West Indies fast bowler of his generation, he represented his country with pride, played county cricket for Glamorgan and Northamptonshire, and earned a living doing what he loved most. The roar of crowds, the satisfaction of taking wickets, the camaraderie of teammates, and the financial security that came with professional cricket. Winston had it all. During his playing days, Winston was living proof that talent, hard work, and dedication could lift someone from humble beginnings to international stardom. He was part of that legendary West Indies bowling attack that dominated world cricket through the 1980s and 1990s, an era when facing the West Indies meant confronting a relentless barrage of pace and hostility that few batting lineups could withstand. Winston's name might not have been as famous as some of his contemporaries, but within cricket circles, he was respected as a genuine fast bowler who could swing matches with his skill and determination. His deliveries were like thunderbolts, his run-up purposeful and intimidating, his very presence on the field a reminder to opposing batsmen that they were facing one of the most dangerous bowling attacks in cricket history. But success in professional sports comes with an expiration date, and Winston knew his time was coming to an end. Like many professional athletes, he planned his retirement carefully, deciding to return to the Caribbean where his journey had begun. It seemed like the perfect ending to a successful career. Going home to enjoy the fruits of his labor, perhaps, coaching young cricketers, staying connected to the game that had given him so much. November 1st, 1997 was supposed to be just another Saturday, a peaceful day in his post-cricket life. That morning, Winston joined members from his church for what seemed like a simple community service project. They were pruning trees, making a clearance, nothing unusual or particularly dangerous about the task. It was the kind of voluntary work that many retired athletes engage in, giving back to their communities, staying active, and maintaining the team spirit that had defined their professional lives. Winston climbed up into a tree, probably thinking about how different this was from the cricket fields where he'd spent so many years, maybe enjoying the simple pleasure of physical work without the pressure of performance. Then, in an instant that lasted barely a second, but changed everything forever, disaster struck. As Winston worked on one branch, another branch above him broke unexpectedly. The timing was perfect in the worst possible way. As the branch he was working on fell to the ground, the branch above delivered what he describes as a tremendous blow to the back of his head that drove him to the ground with devastating force. He was standing less than 6 feet from the ground, a height that under normal circumstances might result in bruises or minor injuries at worst. But this wasn't a normal fall. The impact was precise and catastrophic, striking Winston at exactly the wrong angle with exactly the wrong force. The guys who were working with him rushed to his aid immediately, asking if he could move, touching him to check for responses. The terrible reality became clear within moments. Winston couldn't move anything below his neck, couldn't feel anything in his body. The accident had severed his spinal cord, leaving him instantly paralyzed from the neck down, transforming him. from an independent, athletic man into someone who would need help with every single aspect of daily life. In that split second, the powerful fast bowler who had dominated cricket grounds around the world became completely helpless, dependent on others for survival. The hands that had once gripped cricket balls with deadly precision could no longer move. The legs that had powered his bowling run-up would never carry him again. The body that had been his greatest asset in professional cricket became a prison from which there was no escape. The first 3 months after the accident were brutal, beyond description. Winston describes them as very hard, but those simple words barely capture the nightmare of adjustment he faced. The physical changes alone were overwhelming. Going from being a supremely fit athlete who had spent his entire adult life relying on his body's strength, speed, and coordination to being completely dependent on others for the most basic human functions. Getting out of bed, eating, drinking, using the bathroom, scratching an itch, every single thing that healthy people do without thinking became impossible without assistance. His body was going through all kinds of changes, adapting to a completely different reality where basic biological functions required constant medical attention and care. But the mental adjustment was perhaps even more challenging. Winston had to reconcile the man he had been with the reality of who he had become. The crowds that once cheered his bowling now seemed like memories from another lifetime. The physical confidence that had defined his identity as a fast bowler was gone forever. The independence he had earned through his successful cricket career was replaced by total dependence on others for survival. Depression, anger, frustration, and grief became his daily companions as he struggled to find meaning and purpose in his dramatically altered existence. Every morning brought the fresh shock of remembering his situation, the constant reminder that the life he had known was over and that this new reality was permanent. As the years passed, Winston's situation became increasingly desperate financially. Professional cricket provides athletes with good earnings during their active careers, but few cricketers from Winston's era had the kind of financial planning and investment advice that modern players receive. His cricket earnings, which had seemed substantial during his playing days, were not enough to cover the enormous costs of round-the-clock care that his condition required. Medical expenses, specialized equipment, accessible housing modifications, and constant assistance quickly depleted whatever savings he had accumulated during his career. The cost of living as a tetraplegic is astronomical. Specialized medical equipment, medications, constant care assistance, accessible transportation, and adapted housing all require significant financial resources that most people simply don't have. The cricket world, which had celebrated Winston during his playing days, seemed to move on without him. New stars emerged, fans forgot about yesterday's heroes, and Winston found himself increasingly isolated from the sport that had defined his life. Unlike some other former cricketers who remained visible through commentary, coaching, or administrative roles, Winston's paralysis made it difficult for him to maintain connections within the cricket community. The phone calls became less frequent, the invitations stopped coming, and gradually, Winston Davis, the cricket legend, began to fade from public memory. This isolation was perhaps as painful as his physical condition, watching the sport continue. Without him, seeing new players take the spotlight while his own contributions were slowly forgotten. This is when the true generosity of the cricket community began to reveal itself, though it came in the form of charity rather than the recognition Winston deserved. Benefit matches were organized with the specific objective of raising money to help him live a more comfortable life. These matches featured high-profile cricketers who remembered Winston's contributions to the game and wanted to help their former colleague in his time of desperate need. The matches held in 2002 and 2005 brought together some of cricket's biggest names, all donating their time and talent to raise funds for Winston's care. These events showed that while the broader public might have forgotten Winston, his fellow professionals remembered and respected what he had contributed to cricket. But benefit matches, while generous and well-intentioned, also highlighted the tragic transformation in Winston's status. Here was a man who had once been paid to play cricket at the highest level, now dependent on the charity of others for basic survival. The same cricket grounds where he had once been the star attraction now hosted matches where he was the beneficiary of charity, unable even to attend many of these events due to his physical limitations and the logistical challenges of transporting someone with his level of disability. The irony was heartbreaking. Cricket grounds that had once echoed with applause for his bowling were now venues for raising money to keep him alive. The reality of Winston's daily life became a constant struggle against poverty and dependency. Simple things that most people take for granted became major challenges requiring significant resources. Transportation was particularly problematic. Winston needed a specially modified vehicle that could accommodate his wheelchair and his specific needs. But such vehicles are extremely expensive, and his old vehicle, which had served him for 16 years, was breaking down and becoming unreliable. Without reliable transportation, Winston's world shrank even further, limiting his ability to maintain social connections, attend medical appointments, or simply experience the basic freedom of movement that most people consider a fundamental right. The vehicle became a symbol of his independence. When it worked, he could participate in life. When it didn't, he was trapped. Communication became another challenge that highlighted his isolation. In an era before social media and widespread internet access, staying connected with friends and family around the world was difficult for someone in Winston's situation. He had lost the use of his hands but retained some use of his arms, which meant that with the right equipment and techniques, he could still communicate with the outside world. However, accessing and maintaining the necessary technology required resources that were often beyond his reach. The simple act of staying in touch with people who cared about him became a luxury rather than a given right. The Professional Cricketers' Trust eventually stepped in to provide crucial support, beginning in 2009, 12 years after Winston's accident. Their first major intervention was providing him with a computer, recognizing that communication technology could be a lifeline for someone in his situation. Winston learned to use what he calls a poker to tap keys, allowing him to reconnect with friends and family around the world through email and eventually social media. This simple piece of technology became his window to the world, his connection to the cricket community, and his means of maintaining the relationships that gave his life meaning. The computer represented more than just communication. It was his connection to dignity, to independence, to the world beyond his physical limitations. As Winston's original computer aged and became obsolete, the trust helped him get a replacement, understanding that staying current with technology was essential for someone whose physical limitations made digital communication so important. They also addressed his transportation crisis by helping him obtain a replacement vehicle when his old one finally became unreliable. This new vehicle gave Winston something that no amount of money can truly buy: freedom. Suddenly, visiting friends and family, going shopping, attending medical appointments, and simply experiencing the world outside his home became possible again. Transport has always been a big problem for people with disability, and things you take for granted, like going shopping and visiting friends and family, became available to him again, giving him the freedom that the vehicle provided. The support from the Professional Cricketers' Trust represents more than just financial assistance. It's a recognition that Winston's contributions to cricket deserve ongoing respect and support. The Trust understands that professional cricketers face unique challenges when their careers end, and that injuries or health problems can create situations where former players need help from the cricket community that once celebrated their achievements. For Winston, knowing that the Trust is there provides not just practical support, but emotional confidence. The knowledge that he hasn't been completely forgotten by the sport he served so well. Just by being there, knowing that when he has a need he can come to the Trust, the work that they do, and the people that contribute to the work that they do, that gives him confidence. Despite everything he has endured, Winston's attitude remains remarkably positive and philosophical. He has developed a worldview that focuses on what's possible rather than what's been lost, on gratitude rather than bitterness, on hope rather than despair. His perspective on life after his accident is summed up in his own words. You can either sit in a corner and cry and moan, or you can get up and do whatever you can with the help that's available. This isn't just positive thinking. It's a conscious choice to focus on dignity, purpose, and possibility despite circumstances that would crush many people's spirits completely. There are two ways to look at life. You can either be negative or positive, and Winston has chosen positivity despite facing circumstances that would justify any amount of bitterness or despair. Winston's story serves as a powerful reminder of how quickly life can change and how important community support becomes when individual circumstances become overwhelming. His transformation from cricket legend to someone dependent on charity and benefit matches isn't just his personal tragedy. It's a reflection of broader issues about how society treats former athletes, how we support people with disabilities, and how quickly public memory fades when celebrities can no longer perform their public roles. The cricket world's response to Winston's situation has been both heartwarming and heartbreaking. Heartwarming because individuals and organizations have stepped up to provide crucial support. Heartbreaking because such support became necessary in the first place. Today, more than 2 decades after his accident, Winston continues to face each day with courage and determination that would be inspiring under any circumstances, but becomes truly remarkable given what he has endured. His story isn't just about cricket or disability or poverty. It's about human resilience, community responsibility, and the ways that life can humble even the mightiest among us. Winston Davis should be remembered as a cricket legend whose contributions to the game earned him respect and recognition. Instead, he's become a forgotten hero whose survival depends on the continued generosity of others who remember what he once meant to cricket. If you are ever in need, you can really rely on the trust no matter what your need for help is, and long may the professional cricketer's trust live, as Winston himself says, because without such support, forgotten heroes like him would have nowhere to turn. Support forgotten cricket heroes like Winston Davis. One donation could restore dignity to those who once brought us joy.